Today, the world's biggest meat producer getting back online after a cyber attack. We talked to some cybersecurity experts. AMC shares more than doubled to record highs today. Now it's trying to attract more retail investors with rewards like free popcorn. And the Biden administration suspends some oil and gas leases in Alaska. But one expert says it could do more harm than good. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. After the ransomware attack just a few days ago, major meat processor JBS says is making significant progress in resolving the problem. NTD's Con Fredrickson has the details.
Employees of the biggest meat processing firm on earth, JBS, returned to work Wednesday. It's just a day after the company's beef operations stopped following a ransomware attack.
The proper way to come back up online is to use different types of equipment, different hardware that wasn't involved in the attack. And because things are happening so quickly, I'm skeptical that that's actually happening.
JBS is the second big company that's recently suffered a ransomware attack, following Colonial Pipeline in May. Experts say this is because such companies have the money to pay and need to resolve the problem quickly because they're vital to the economy. An anonymous source tells CNBC the hacker group REvil is behind the attack.
And they typically use the dark web blog called Happy Blog to name and shame its victims. They have yet to release a blog related to JBS. Anything that's a telltale sign that JBS is negotiating, if not have already paid the ransom.
Cybersecurity ratings firm BitSight says about 70% of the food production industry is at an elevated risk of attack relative to the market because of cybersecurity performance.
In fact, about 40% of those in that elevated risk category are at risk because they just aren't keeping their systems up to date. And that's historically what ransomware will exploit.
JBS USA's CEO says we have cybersecurity plans in place to address these types of issues, and we are successfully executing those plans. He thanks the White House and the FBI for their help. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Amazon says it supports legalizing marijuana in the United States, will drop weed testing some employees. One exec says the company will support a bill seeking to legalize weed at the federal level. Amazon will also stop drug testing new recruits who aren't regulated by the Department of Transportation. The company says state laws are changing and the company is changing policies with it. Although it was recently threatened with a class action lawsuit in New York City, the plaintiffs accusing it of weed testing applicants at local facilities, something that's illegal for most jobs in New York City. The SEC is going after Tesla for Elon Musk's market-moving tweets. Musk is active on Twitter, to say the least, and he often tweets about Tesla, other companies, investments, cryptocurrencies. And his company, though, is supposed to approve his tweets first, but the SEC says it failed to do it. The Wall Street Journal reports that last May, Musk tweeted Tesla's share price was too high, and the SEC says this prompted a $13 billion decline in the company's value. There was another tweet about solar roof production, but neither got approval from Tesla, according to the SEC. A court told Tesla to monitor Musk in 2018 after allegations he committed fraud by tweeting about a potential buyout of his company. Musk and Tesla each paid $20 million as part of the settlement, which also required Musk's public statements on social media to be vetted by the company's lawyers, or a so-called Twitter sitter. Musk has over 56 million fans on the platform. Etsy is taking over fashion reseller Depop in a $1.6 billion deal. It hopes to target younger Gen Z consumers, that's 6 to 24-year-olds. NTD Sefer Korda reports.
It has an arts and crafts kind of image, but Etsy has grown into a major corporation with financial firepower to match. On Wednesday, it said it was tapping those resources to buy fashion reseller Depop. The Takeover deal is valued at $1.6 billion. Depop is an online marketplace that allows people to buy and sell new or secondhand apparel. And Etsy hopes the acquisition will help it target younger customers. It says Depop is the 10th most visited shopping site among Gen Z consumers in the U.S. Etsy estimates that the secondhand market will see 39% compound annual growth rates until 2024, making it a $64 billion business. That as young consumers grow more mindful of the fashion industry's environmental impact. Etsy hopes to close the deal in the third quarter of this year. Sapphire Quarter, NTD News.
Wall Street's main indexes booked modest gains today. The Dow rising 25 points, S&P 500 gained 6 points, and the Nasdaq added 20 points. S&P 500 energy sector extended its rise today as oil prices pushed it higher. Materials sector fell though. Tesla also fell 3% today. Investors probably going to be watching the jobless claim numbers tomorrow and the May job report Friday. We'll keep you updated. Today, one Federal Reserve official said he thinks inflation will reach 3% this year. He also said it's time for the Fed to thinking about reducing its asset purchase. Just when you thought the Reddit rebellion was over, shares of AMC jumped to a record high today. Like GameStop, it's a favorite stock among Wall Street bets crowd, and the company seems to like its meme stock image. It's now offering rewards to individual investors like free large popcorn just for signing up for a newsletter. Conway G. Gittins has the details.
AMC is basking in the glow of its cult status as a so-called meme stock. The pack of individual investors touting AMC on message boards like Reddit's Wall Street Bets pushed the stock to a record high Wednesday. Shares were up another 30% in early trading, topping $40 for the first time ever. Looking to build on that momentum and stay connected to those small investors, AMC on Wednesday launched a new investor outreach program that offered a free large popcorn to even the smallest shareholders if they signed up for a regular newsletter. That focus on mom and pop investors comes amid doubts from Wall Street professionals. Hedge funds are still betting on the stock's demise. Mudrick Capital, which bought $230 million worth of AMC shares on Tuesday, quickly flipped it for a profit on the same day. There's also the issue of AMC's debt and declining sales. Vespula Capital CEO Jeff Tomasulo.
And when you look at the certain amount of money, you look at the debt on the books that AMC has, you look at their equity. I mean, you're saying that this company has an enterprise value of over like $18 billion. And if you start to go back and look at how the company performed pre-pandemic, it doesn't fundamentally make sense for, the stock to be valued at where it's being valued at.
Goldman Sachs isn't a fan of the movie theater business right now. It downgraded AMC's peers, Cinemark and IMAX, to sell ratings on Wednesday, saying the rise of direct-to-consumer streaming services poses an existential threat to the theater chains. But the harsh spotlight on the movie theater business hasn't convinced small investors to walk out on AMC yet. Wednesday's rally propelled the stock to a more than 1,800% gain so far this year.
What a saga. And Standard Chartered is planning to launch a crypto exchange and brokerage. They're going to target institutional clients. It's one of the strongest endorsements yet for crypto from a mainstream lender. The bank will join forces with the operator of the Hong Kong licensed crypto exchange called OSL. The new platform will target the European market, connecting institutional traders with counterparties trading Bitcoin, Ether, and other digital assets. The move is in contrast to its rival HSBC. Its chief executive said last month the bank has no plans to launch crypto trading. But one Stanchart executive says they believe digital assets are here to stay and the institutional market will adopt it as a highly relevant asset class. And the Biden administration says it's suspending some oil and gas leases in Alaska. It's the latest development in a decades-long dispute over a wildlife refuge. Here's NTD's Evelyn Lee with more.
The Biden administration is suspending oil and gas leases in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. After decades of disputes over the area, it was former President Trump who approved the drilling program during his last days in office.
This executive order I'm signing today also makes it official that climate change will be at the center of our national security and foreign policy.
But one expert says drilling in the refuge could benefit the U.S.
discovering and responsibly tapping into oil and gas reserves nationwide makes America safer, it makes America more prosperous, but it also employs millions of people in the process.
In 2017, lawmakers approved the oil and gas development program in the area. And a year later, the Bureau of Land Management concluded that drilling could be done without harming wildlife. But concerns remain. Lawsuits allege the Trump administration performed a faulty environmental analysis that didn't adequately consider its impact on wildlife and native people. The move now aims to unwind nearly a dozen leases. And Turner raises concerns not only about the economy. He says our demand for oil isn't going to dissipate.
So if we cut into the supply, we have to make up for it elsewhere. Unfortunately, most of the countries in the world that have oil are not great actors.
Alaska Senator Murkowski said last year that the oil opportunity was very much needed. It could help build a lasting economic foundation and assist Alaskans to navigate through the challenging times. And Turner says foregoing the opportunities to drill can have serious consequences.
The consequences aren't silly, right? The people a couple of weeks ago trying to drive their mother to dialysis but couldn't because there was no oil and gas to be found at the gas station. The people trying to drive to work, trying to drive their kids to school, ambulances stuck on the road.
The action is the latest effort by Biden to restrict oil and gas activities on public lands. He has also paused all new oil and gas leasing on federal lands and waters, the source of a quarter of the nation's petroleum. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
Do you like British coats or Italian handbags? Well, you might have to pay more for them soon. Today, the Trade Representative's Office announced a 25% tariff against $2 billion worth of imports, but then immediately suspended them as a negotiation tactic. The tariffs are in retaliation against 6 countries' digital tax on U.S. companies, most of them big tech firms like Apple and Google. The trade rep says the taxes discriminate against American companies, but Britain says the tax ensures tech firms pay their fair share and it's only temporary anyway. Imports targeted by the tariffs include British clothing, footwear, cosmetics, Italian clothing and handbags, and other goods from Spain, Turkey, India, and Austria. And Budweiser's parent company is teaming up with the White House to encourage Americans to get vaccinated. Anheuser-Busch will give away free drinks if 70% of Americans get vaccinated by July 4th. The giveaway will start when the CDC says 70% of adults have gotten at least 1 dose of the vaccine. It'll continue for about a week or so until all the prizes are given out. Winners will get a $5 gift card to buy any Anheuser-Busch beverage. That includes non-alcoholic drinks, don't worry, but it's still for adults 21 and up. To enter, all you gotta do is take a picture of yourself at your favorite place to have a beer and then upload it to mycooler.com/beer. And West Virginia is giving away fancy guns. Drawings for custom rifles and shotguns will start on Father's Day. Prizes will go to residents who've received at least 1 dose. It's not the only vaccine giveaway in the state. One resident will get a $1 million prize from the lottery. The state's also giving away full ride scholarships, trucks, and lifetime fishing and hunting licenses. And every fully vaccinated person in the state ages 16 to 35 will get $100 in the form of savings bonds or gift cards. The New York Times ranking shows West Virginia has one of the lower vaccination rates in the country. And California's farmers are facing extreme drought. Now they're either changing planting plans or even finding other ways to make a living. Here's NTD's Eiling Ang with more.
Joe Del Bosque is leaving a third of his farm near Firebaugh, California barren this year. Despite extreme drought, he hopes to get enough water to produce a marketable melon crop. Farmers across California say they expect to receive little water from state and federal agencies that regulate reservoirs and canals. Farmers have decided to leave their fields empty, plant more drought-tolerant crops, or seek new income sources altogether.
We've never been through this situation before. For whatever little water we've gotten in the past, and sometimes we don't get a lot of water, but at least we know what we got, and we can use it when we need it, and we can plan. This year we can't plan because we don't know when we'll get water that we are trying to get for these crops.
The 72-year-old grows melons, asparagus, sweet corn, almonds, and cherries on his 2,000-acre farm. He said he could lose more than $500,000 in income and put many of his 700 employees out of work.
It's an economic disaster. We don't plant crops, we don't have jobs, we don't produce food. And as we saw during the pandemic, this industry is essential for everyone. We work to feed everybody.
Agriculture is an important part of California's economy. The Golden State is a top producer of vegetables, berries, nuts, and dairy products. The last major drought from 2012 to 2017 reduced irrigation supplies to farmers, forced strict household conservation measures, and caused deadly wildfires.
This year is the worst drought, the worst year since 1977. It's worse than the last drought we had in 2014 and 2015. So our water supplies are very deficient this year, and we simply don't have enough water to be able to supply our water service contractors with the water supply. So we've had to reduce their allocation to effectively zero.
Nearly 40% of California's 24.6 million acres of farmland are irrigated, crops like almonds and grapes in some regions needing more water to thrive. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Still to come this evening. A sinking ship is leaving tons of waste off the coast of Sri Lanka. It could be the country's worst environmental disaster in decades. And can you get money for nothing? Apparently, an Italian artist just did. He sold his invisible sculpture for nearly $20,000. You don't want to miss this. That and more after this short break.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back. A cargo ship ablaze for weeks off the coast of Sri Lanka is now sinking, leaving tons of plastics polluting the country's fishing waters. It could be one of Sri Lanka's worst environmental crises in decades. The Singapore-registered Express Pearl is carrying 25 tons of nitric acid and some other substances. It was at anchor when the fire erupted nearly 2 weeks ago. Authorities have finally put out the blaze, but now the salvage company says the ship is sinking. Tons of plastic have already swamped the island's coastline and fishing grounds. The government deployed soldiers to help clean it up, but it's also banned fishing along about 50 miles of the coast, which affects over 5,000 fishing boats. And the Chinese regime is now allowing married couples to have up to 3 children. This after recent data showed a dramatic decline in childbirth. But is the new policy going to work? Many young people there are reluctant to have kids. Rosanna Philpott breaks down the cost of actually having children in China.
Married Chinese couples can now have up to 3 children. It's a response to recent data. There's been a dramatic decline in births in the country, and China's fertility rate has fallen to just 1.3 children per woman. That despite Beijing scrapping of its one-child policy in 2016. So why the decline? The cost of raising a child in urban China has deterred many would-be parents.
Because we're living in a big city such as Beijing, the work pace is fast, and it isn't easy to make money. The cost of time to raise a child is also high.
So how much does it cost to have a child in China's big cities? $15,700. That's how much private clinics in China are charging women to give birth. Prenatal tests and deliveries in public hospitals are usually covered by state insurance, but resources are tight and more Chinese women are turning to private options. Up to $55,000. This is how much a postpartum centre in Beijing can cost per month. As Chinese incomes rise, women are flocking to facilities like this for professional care and services. Housing costs in Beijing's Haidian, a district with good schools, hover around $14,000 per square metre, on par with median prices in Manhattan. Those not eligible for public schools because they lack a hukou or residency permit must attend private schools, which cost roughly $6,000 to $39,000 per year. An average family living in Shanghai's upscale Yinjiang district spends roughly $131,000 per child from birth through to junior high school, which typically ends at age 15. High costs and the pressures of having grown up as only children, as well as the expectation that they'll support their parents, have made many young people in China reluctant to have kids of their own.
And a former Huawei director is on trial in Poland on spying charges. He and a Polish cybersecurity expert allegedly spied for the Chinese regime under the cover of business. NTD's Patrick Hayden, our reporter in Europe, has more.
2 men accused of spying for China went on trial Tuesday in Poland. A Chinese former sales director of Huawei and a Polish cybersecurity expert faced the charges. The men, Wei Jingwang and Piotr Debilo, are both pleading not guilty. Because of the classified nature of the case, the trial will be held in secret. Both men were arrested at the beginning of 2019. Former President Trump's administration lobbied European allies to boycott Huawei's next-generation mobile phone networking gear on security grounds. Huawei's fortunes in Europe have tumbled because of the US campaign. Polish paper Gazeta Wyborcza reported that Wang's indictment alleges he was a spy from 2011 to 2019. And during that time, he sought contracts for Huawei to gain insight and influence over government data systems in Poland. If convicted, they face a minimum of 3 years in prison. The trial is expected to take months. Huawei declined to comment because the case is ongoing. Patrick Hayden, NTD News, London.
And an Italian artist just sold a sculpture for more than $18,000. But the sculpture is invisible. Bidding started from around $7,000 to $11,000 until the final bid was cast for something that doesn't actually exist. The 67-year-old artist claims he created the sculpture. He calls it I Am. Newsweek reports that the artist doesn't see his work of art as nothing, but instead as a vacuum. He required the buyer to clear an area in their home to display the invisible statue. It requires an area 5 feet long and 5 feet wide. The only thing the buyer will actually receive, though, is a certificate signed by the artist, at least materially. And cruise ships are once again setting sail in the Mediterranean, but Passengers will have to get used to wearing masks on board. NTD's Arlene Richards reports.
Cruise ships are setting sail again in the Mediterranean. The Costa Smeralda is the world's 5th largest. It's now on its way round Sicily and Sardinia. In normal times, it would carry over 5,000 passengers. Right now, though, it's limited to less than half that. Passengers have to show a negative test before boarding and do another mid-cruise. Mask wearing is mandatory. Mario Zanetti is the president of the ship's operator, Costa Cruises.
In order to follow the protocols of social distancing, we have a limited capacity and have had to reduce the number of guests in order to strictly and efficiently follow the regulations. The priority is the health of our guests and our staff on board and the communities that we will visit.
The cruise industry was devastated by the global health crisis, but now operators are making a tentative return. This week, Norwegian Cruise Line said it would start sailing again in the U.S. from August. Rivals Carnival and Royal Caribbean will resume cruises there from July. Passengers on the Costa Smeralda were certainly happy to be back on board. "I feel like I've got my liberty back," says one woman, but the ship is quieter than usual. The casino and bars are empty and there's no sign of the usual line for the water slide. Cruising may be back, but right now it's still a shadow of the business it once was. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.